A European Super League, a Champions League reform, which are we headed toward, and what's the Swiss system that we keep on hearing about? Hey, I'm Adrian, and I'll try to address those questions in this video, amongst many other things, ahead of UEFA making the official announcements probably next month. I'm going off of what we've heard, what's been said, what's rumored to be happened, what's been leaked, etc. And so, yes, I'll actually be looking forward to UEFA's next Congress meeting on April 20th, as it could provide some massive updates for us with regard to the Champions League. And speaking of which, you can ensure that you are up to date on every single piece of Champions League news thanks to our sponsor for this video, OneFootball. OneFootball's app provides you with the fastest breaking news from all of football's competitions. That's including the Champions League, Europa, the UEFA Conference League in the future, men's and women's football, every continent, you name it. Well, almost every continent that has football on it, that is. Is there an Antarctica Football League? Follow along matches live with their match tickers, track transfers with their transfer raters, watch videos and highlights, including live-streamed matches in some countries. There's plenty to do with OneFootball, so do yourself a favor and use the link in the description below to get a free download of OneFootball on the operating system of your choice. Danke, OneFootball. Now let's get to the news about a competition that doesn't need fixing. Sorry, that's me injecting my own opinion here. So there are two entities at play here, UEFA and the European Clubs Association, or ECA, which is headed up by Andrea Agnelli, Juve's president. The ECA represents a total of 246 clubs across Europe, and in their own words, quote, ECA exists to protect and promote European club football. Its aim is to create a new, more democratic governance model that truly reflects the key role of the clubs. ECA acts to strengthen each of the clubs for the benefit of all, and to ensure that club football is recognized by decision makers as the main stakeholder in the game. So they are almost like the agent that represents the European clubs when they are negotiating new terms with UEFA, similarly to how a player has an agent representative that helps them to negotiate terms with clubs. And so in this particular lens, the reform of the Champions League, when dealing with UEFA, the ECA would be negotiating things like how many matches they want to play, the restructuring of the competition, with the aim, at least in theory, to provide more matches in the UCL, which means more advertisement revenue and broadcast revenue for UEFA, and then negotiating with UEFA to provide more of that broadcasting and advertising revenue to the clubs that are involved. Now, as you guys will know, the Champions League format has changed quite a few times throughout its history, going back to the European Cup and all. It used to be just a knockout competition, then it moved toward having group stage matches, then having a second group phase, and then reverting back in 2003, it shifted to the format that we know and love today. The current Champions League format and the terms of such are active until 2024, and thus negotiations for the 2024-25 season and onward are ongoing now. So as of now, there would be no changes to the format of the Champions League for the next 3 seasons. That's 2021-22, 2022-2023, and 2023-2024. This time frame speaks volumes to all of the Super League rumors that we have heard, you know, with the rumored Super League that people such as Florentino Perez were apparently pushing for, that Bartomeu said Barcelona were supporting upon himself stepping down as president of Barcelona. And I mean, it certainly just comes across as some strong arming ahead of the negotiations for the 2024 onward editions of the UEFA Champions League. Again, similarly to how agents talk about their players potentially wanting to go to other more competitive clubs that provide better play, this seemed to me at least like a similar tactic from the top clubs in Europe in order to ensure that they have more of a say in what happens with the Champions League and more money. Andrea Agnelli has spoken of how he wants to have more matches in the Champions League, 4 more matches in the group stage, meaning that there would be more teams in the competition as well. On top of this, he and his ECA homies have envisioned revamping the structure of the Champions League completely. Instead of the group stage format that we have now, in which each group has 2 teams advance, 1 drops to the Europa League and 1 is eliminated. More on that later, but let's hear what Agnelli had to say when it comes to the number of teams in the Champions League. Quote, "If we look back in time, the Champions League had 4 more games than it has today. I think the balance that we are trying to strike is 1/3 international European competition and 2/3 domestic. We can take a look at the overall calendar. We have countries like England with a maximum number of games at 53. If I'm not mistaken, Germany is 43, and so is Italy. We do think that currently, for competitive balance purposes, 20 teams in leagues are too many. There is an overall element that could actually be worked out altogether in the interests of everyone. Now, to just go back a little bit there and explain something, when he was talking about the maximum number of matches for a top flight side, he was basically taking the league matches and adding in the cup competitions as well. England has potentially more, as they have 20 teams in their league plus 2 competitions, the League Cup and the FA Cup, whereas countries like Germany, Italy, and Spain have just the 1 cup competition. And in Germany's case, they also just have 18 teams in the top division as well. But yeah, I guess Spain has reformed the Super Cup, so there's 1 additional match added in there. So, in the Champions League, 4 more matches added to the calendar does raise a few questions, namely, where, or rather when, do you fit these matches into the schedule? Considering the international breaks that are already there to contend with in the European schedule, considering how Agnelli said that he would like the European fixtures to take up about 1/3 of the overall football calendar, then perhaps the Champions League fixtures would bleed into either January or early February. That remains to be seen. And so, with 4 more matches, the rumor now is that there would be 4 more teams added to the Champions League group stage, but it wouldn't be a group stage, really. Instead of 32 teams in 8 groups, Agnelli said the ECA have apparently proposed having all 36 teams in one league, playing 10 matches each, and all teams ranked against each other based off of how they fare in the 10 matches that they play, similarly to any other league table. All 36 teams in one league table, and they play 10 matches. And so that bears the question of, how do you decide who plays against who? This is where you have maybe heard of the Swiss system, this term that's floating around. So let's get into that. The Swiss system is a ranking and matchmaking system that was devised for chess tournaments back in Zurich over a century ago. It is believed that it would be adapted for the Champions League. Well, there's a couple of ways that it could be adapted, actually. Using UEFA's club coefficient system, which I have linked to below for you to see for yourself, see how your club ranks in the UEFA club coefficients, the 36 clubs involved in the Champions League would be ranked by their coefficient. This would provide a sort of seeding for the 36-team table, and then a draw would occur to determine who plays against who. It is believed that the teams would play against 5 opponents, both home and away, to make up their 10 matches. But there is some debate over that, which we will never know for sure until it's announced in April. There are some reports that assume that most of the top teams would be pitted against each other, while others think that there would be sort of a mix of the top and bottom teams, but that in theory wouldn't really be a drastic change from the current group format in which teams are drawn into 4 different pots and mixed together. Some suspect that top teams would play more top teams, while the bottom teams would play against each other, sort of akin to what the UEFA Nations League aimed to do. But again, we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, after 10 matches have been played, it is believed that the top 8 teams would automatically move on to the round of 16, while 9 through 24 would have playoff matches against each other to take the final 8 places in the round of 16. The rest of the tournament would be as you know it. Round of 16, quarterfinals, etc. If that's not the case, then it's theorized that the top 16 would make it through, while places 17 through 24 would drop into the Europa League. Other sources have also claimed that they're thinking of making the top 8 teams also automatically qualify for the next season of the Champions League. So it's still a bit murky here, guys. In April, we'll have much more clarity. I hope. Andrea Agnelli had a lot to say on Monday, so let's go through some of his quotes. Some of them a little bit worrying in my opinion. First off, with respect to agreeing to the new terms and the format, he said, quote, "I think we're very close to my ideal Champions League. I think the Swiss system is beautiful. I think it will provide great opportunities for the teams participating in that competition. It will provide the knockouts that are the essence of any competition. It's very, very close to an ideal Champions League. We're maybe just a couple of weeks away." And just as a reminder, the next big Congress meeting for UEFA is April 20th. I've been trying to drive that into your heads. So we could have confirmation by then. But anyway, he also spoke about how the ECA were discussing amongst themselves the idea of having no transfers between any of the top-ranked Champions League clubs. Quote, no triple-figure transfers between Champions League participating clubs maybe would mean focusing instead on champion players in smaller countries, allowing us only to buy players there. These are elements we are discussing, but certainly cost control will be one of the biggest challenges in terms of reforms going forward. Now, at first, that seemed a bit strange to me, but in the name of controlling costs in football, I can sort of understand it. This would essentially stop blockbuster transfers between big clubs, or at least it would attempt to do so. Big teams buying talent from small teams isn't anything new there, really. It's the classic scenario that has happened in football for ages, but if they're picking off all of the smaller team players, if the Champions League can only buy from Europa League and other teams that aren't even in Europe, wouldn't that in some way sort of create a bigger gap between the groups of teams competitively? And here's the weirdest idea of all. Agnelli was talking about how they can attract younger audiences to football, which I didn't really think was a problem. I thought that there's plenty of young kids that are interested in football. But anyways, I could be wrong about that. Here's what he had to say. Quote, we could imagine a subscription for the last 15 minutes of a specific game. The attention span of today's kids and tomorrow's spenders is completely different to the one I had when I was their age. If you take golf, if it's interesting at all, it's only the last 6 holes on the final day. You're not going to watch the whole thing on TV unless you are a hardcore fan. Now, whether he meant this would put the last 15 minutes behind a paywall, I don't know. Upon further reflection, I don't think that's what he meant. More, they would offer a reduced rate subscription service for those who just care about the final 15 minutes of a given match. So I guess if that's supplemental and it's not a complete reform of how broadcasting will work, and I can continue to catch Champions League matches through DAZN in my case, while they also offer the final 15 pack for those who just want the final 15 minutes of a match, I guess that's fine. But if they paywall the final 15 minutes of football matches, which again, I don't think that's what Agnelli meant, which I pray that's not what Agnelli meant, then I hope that this idea gets absolutely torched with a flamethrower and never spoken of again. But anyways, guys, that's what we know so far. That's what's been rumored. I'm open to a change to the competition. I'm always open to a change, so long as it improves the competition and it's made for the right reasons and won't stress the teams further with fixture congestion, which, as we've seen firsthand this season with a condensed calendar, brings plenty of injuries and complications. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to drop a like to make Mr. Algorithm happy. Not Mr. Agnelli, Mr. Algorithm. And if you didn't, the dislike button is there as well. My name is Adrian, I love you, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.